Somebody asked me this morning in the premiere, every morning at 9 o'clock my time, we've got a premiere going. We got a video uploading Monday through Sunday. I mean, literally 7 days a week, we do that. And in this morning's premiere, somebody asked, hey, now that Trump is president, will Seattle get cleaned up? And my answer was emphatically no. And here's why. Let's watch a couple of videos. Here we go.
Addiction is a disease and it needs treatment. It doesn't need criminalization.
Compelling arguments before Seattle City Council members voted on the stay out of drug and prostitution area zones.
While I understand that this law is not a cure-all and won't fix everything, it is a crucial first step.
So-called soap and soda zones will be in areas of the International District, downtown, and Aurora neighborhoods. They could go into effect in 30 days.
Increasing criminalization of sex workers as the preferred policy to regulate sex work has only resulted in more harm and depletes our vital public safety resources without actually solving the problem.
Councilmember Tammy Morales voted against soap and soda.
I'm really disheartened that we're having these conversations again as a city when there are things we could be doing to address the root causes of all of these issues.
But council members for both believe something has to be done to address problems brought to them from constituents.
This is about creating safe neighborhoods for ourselves. And it's about implementing our strategic framework plan that addresses the permissive environment that the prior terms of this council created, along with the former city attorney. We have to take action to undo what they've created in terms of the challenges that we face today. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. You're a disruption. Thank you. Goodbye. Security.
Unruly and out of line. A meeting of Seattle's Public Safety Committee halted several times as hecklers demanded more time for public testimony. In the end, committee members approved a ban on prostitution loitering along Aurora Avenue, as well as stay-out-of-drug areas for several other neighborhoods. It's not a final vote, and many people showed up to oppose them.
Only people here saying yes are the business owners. But of course, time and time again, that is what the city listens to.
Passing this bill will take away an essential income.
Okay. All right. What is up with this Fruit Loop? I mean, you got a mask on. Hey, the pandemic's over. By the way, masks didn't work. So put your mask away. Nobody cares. And you got, what do you got? You got some cat ears up there? Oh, and you've got a collar. So you must be a cat? You are Bingo, the sex worker. This is why Seattle will not clean up. You've got lunatics like this who are opposed to anything to do with getting Seattle back on the right track. And they are incredibly vocal. Democrats, these are your people. These are the far left extremists. Bingo, the sex worker who has artificial ears and a collar and is just saying a bunch of nonsense. Just nonsense. That's why Seattle is just bound to keep, going on its crazy train, because anybody else trying to figure out how to get public safety going in the right direction encounters these losers who wanted to defund the police and a bunch of other idiotic, psychotic behavior. Let's keep going.
For me, when I need to stay alive. Passing this bill could kill me.
The stay out of area of prostitution or soap zone would ban people from Aurora Avenue if they are arrested for sex trafficking or being a customer. The ban would not apply to the sex workers themselves. Council proposed it as a way to address the shootings that have terrorized nearby neighborhoods.
Yeah, we've covered that.
Tremendous amount of violence that has been going on in District 5, and it truly has been fueled by the sex trade.
Police say much.
That's Aurora. This is all Aurora Avenue North. We've covered all that.
This gun violence is tied to turf wars between pimps and gangs who control the illegal sex trade. But during public comment, speakers questioned the connection.
The soap bill conflates sex work with gun violence, yet gun violence along Aurora Avenue is not driven by sex workers. Targeting them fails to address the root causes of gun violence.
The disruption.
What? You got a bunch of pimp on pimp shootouts. Remember the Maserati? These are literally pimps controlling their human trafficked, sex trafficked prostitutes. They're shooting each other because, hey, your girl took my territory, or hey, your girl took my John, whatever it is, right? You looked at me funny. You looked at me sideways. Pimps are just having shootouts because we don't have enough cops and we don't have enough public will or political will to put these people away. So of course, this element in Seattle is going to thrive, and they are thriving right now. They're doing work.
Numerous Seattle police officers being called in, and 2 people ended up being ejected. Joel Marino, Como News.
That's from a hearing. Yeah, these people are just nuts. Okay, so what has happened is you've got those areas in place. You've got those areas in place. You've got the off limits. Okay, you can't go here. And if you've been convicted, all right, it goes to whatever. So you've got these stay out zones, and I'm in total agreement with them. I think it's one more tool that politicians and law enforcement can use to put some people in jail, but without the judges to really go there and make this a thing, without the political will, without the will of the people to make this a go, it's a tool that's not going to get utilized. And guess what? That's what's happening. That is what's happening. Just real quick, Seattle lawmakers last year made a late push to expand the city's ability to crack down on misdemeanor crime and disorder in commercial areas, setting up 6 stay-out zones for those arrested on drug-related offenses and expanding the number of jail beds available for Seattle-based bookings. Seattle is open for criminal bookings, but they're not being taken up because we're not going after those criminals. I mean, it's super, super basic stuff. Here's Ann Davidson. She is a Republican, and I believe she is doing work. And she is part of, these laws being passed. She gets it. But there's only so much that a couple of politicians, even the, full Seattle City Council can do to try and get things going on the right direction, because you got a bunch of lunatics in Seattle that are okay with having criminal behavior just run rampant throughout the city. They are okay with that. They're okay with that until it comes to behavior against them. And then they're all up in arms. Where's the police? They must have known that I supported defund the police because they didn't come. No, it's a much, much greater issue than that. And so here's the stay out zones you've got going on. This is the one around the Blade, Pike and Pine and 3rd Avenue. You got Cal Anderson Park. That's where you had one of the murders. Well, actually all the murders during CHOP, the 2 murders that happened by Black Lives Matter and Antifa of 2 young men, a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old in CHOP. They were cut down before they even reached age 20. So you've got one in Cal Anderson Park. That's CHOP. And you've got the International District. That is where you've got we had the multiple stabbings. That's where that is. And this one right over here, it's another just horrific intersection. They've just set up, hey, let's sell some drugs, human trafficking, you name it, let's do it. And then you've got one in the University District, and then you've got a soap zone, a stay out of area prostitution in Aurora, a little bit further north. But you've got these areas set up, but if you don't have enough cops and if you don't have enough political will to actually press charges against people for crimes, then all the off-limit areas in the world aren't going to have any impact whatsoever. And this article here, it basically indicated one judge has used this the way it's meant to be in their favor. And it's another tool that's going just, sitting on the sidelines, because you can have all these good intentions by people trying to do the right thing in Seattle. But when the very vocal far left minority rears its ugly head, which is a lot of Seattle, then you're hosed. Trump can come in and do all the stuff that he wants to do, deport criminal illegal aliens left and right. But when you've got folks that want to go a different direction, that's what's happening in Seattle. That's what's happening in Portland. That is what's happening in, some of these areas in Chicago as well. LA, big example. So far, the answer is largely no. Are these off-limit areas helping? While drug arrests in all of 2024 are up from 2023, they have not meaningfully increased since the zones were established, according to police data. At the same time, Seattle is also not coming close to using its full allotment of beds in the downtown jail, even after city officials negotiated a higher number last fall. As a result, prosecutors are not fielding these sorts of cases that might warrant a stay-out order. So you got these areas, got somebody that gets charged with the crime. All right, you got to stay out of here. It's this misnomer that people are going to, number one, listen to stay out. All right, they're not going to go in there. But number two is that, prosecutors are going to use this as a tool and basically state, all right, you can't go in there. And if you do, tisk on you. Bad things are going to happen. It's not really happening. And you don't have enough cops to drop the hammer on these criminals doing their thing. You just don't have enough cops because priority calls are not low-level drug dealing. They're not low-level prostitution. Even though human trafficking and sex trafficking and drugs coming through the southern border are an enormous, enormous thing, if somebody's getting raped over on XYZ block, then that's where the cops are going to go. If your business is getting broken into, not so much. Somebody's getting murdered, somebody's, massive fight breaks out, whatever the case may be, that's where the cops are going to go. So whether or not you've got these no-go zones, doesn't really have an impact on day-to-day, but it is a good tool to have in case somebody actually wants to use it, meaning a prosecutor and a judge. So we've got a couple of people that we've got council member Bob Kettle, who chairs the council's public safety committee for Seattle, framed the new zones as just one small piece of a broader public safety effort by the council and said he expected its use to ramp up over the next year. Okay, all right. But essentially, Seattle, what I'm not hearing from folks in Seattle is that, hey, we're okay with what Trump is doing, taking the criminal, illegal aliens out of our city. We're hearing the opposite. And that is what kind of goes through Seattle society, is that they're okay with, being broken into. They're okay with, property crime. They're okay with graffiti. They're okay with violence. They're okay with people being, assaulted. They're okay with that. That's kind of what they believe, because if they believed otherwise, they wouldn't stand up in these meetings and just do a bunch of verbal diarrhea about how they might die because this law goes into enact. Meanwhile, you can't take them seriously when they've literally got, animal ears on, fake animal ears on. But the key thing here is, in order to have increased numbers, you have to have increased numbers of officers on the streets doing it. So why don't we get just a whole, here's Ross Dress for Less on the Blade. That's 3rd Avenue. It's the south end of 3rd Avenue between Pike and Pike. Why don't we just hire a bunch more cops? I think 2024 was the first year we might have had like a 1 or 2 police officer net positive, meaning the number of cops making lateral moves to other departments, retiring, quitting, whatever, going to a totally different new vocation. 2024 is the first year we had more folks come into the department than leave. So we've had years and years and years of cops leaving because Seattle has demonized their police force. We don't have enough cops. We defunded the police. We've just had massive issues going on with the city where we're just, it's okay. Prostitution, that's okay. Drugs, they're okay. Legalize them. And then all of these things. Oh, no. Criminal behavior is going up. We got to do something. Let's create a zone. Now, the use of these stay out of area zones, they've been going on for years and years and years. They're an emphasis zone is what they are. So they give, prosecutors, they give judges a little bit more leeway to drop the hammer on somebody. But we're not dropping the hammer on people. Seattle isn't dropping the hammer on people. Bellevue drops the hammer on people. Bellevue doesn't have any no-go zones because we don't need to. The whole city is a no-go zone for those with drugs. Even for homelessness, the whole city is a no-go zone. Hey, you got to be in that shelter up there. Hey, you got to be in that shelter. Let's take you back over to Seattle where you came from. Let's get you into a shelter there. How can we help you? That's what Bellevue does. But Seattle's got a wildly different mindset. They're just like, hey, man, let anything go. It's all going to be good. Let's take another toke and talk about kumbaya world peace. Meanwhile, the business down here is getting robbed and a bunch of graffitis going on up there. Somebody's car is getting broken into. And then we've got the whole pimp thing, just shooting each other. Just boom, 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 boom. I mean, that's a known quantity in Seattle. Seattle's got some of the most horrific gun violence because you got a whole bunch of people running around with illegal guns. That's what you got. You got a bunch of gangbangers. You got a bunch of gang members, and you got a bunch of pimps running around doing their thing. But it's okay. The prostitutes, they're not going to get in trouble, but the Johns and the pimps are. I mean, make that make sense. Well, they're victims. They've been sexually trafficked. It's a whole ecosystem, right? Either legalize the damn thing and take your tax money and put it into prosecution of the next crime, or just, I don't know what the answer is, right? I don't know. Seattle's new law allows municipal court judges to bar people from 6 areas around the city, even before they've been formally convicted, and likely as a condition of being released prior or before trial. So, these are areas that, are supposed to do some good. Could they? Yes. If we had a different makeup, probably of law enforcement in the city, if we had an attitude like Republican-run cities where they don't tolerate crime, where you've got nice parks, where your children can go to the park and not worry about picking up a piece of human excrement, where it doesn't smell like human urine, where they're not going to step on a hypodermic needle that was loaded with somebody's blood a few hours ago, and heroin and fentanyl and whatever else. You don't have to worry about your kids picking those up. Hey, Mom, what's this? Got a hypo right there. Don't have to worry about that in the big Republican cities because their parks are clean. They take this seriously. I'm here in Bellevue, Washington, and we're just, 10 miles east of Seattle. I can go to my park. There's no needles. There's no nothing. There's no lunatics running around. There's more and more people committing crime, but it's because you've got a lot of wealthy folks in Bellevue, and they are targets. You've got elderly folks that are being targeted because you got, gang members coming up from down south, gang members coming from Seattle, and they're just doing their thing. They're stealing from people, robbing people. That is what happens in a big blue Democrat-run state. Period. So you can have all of these tools in the world. You can have the president come in, and things are only going to get worse. They're only going to get worse because the ongoing mentality is that anything to do with law enforcement is bad, right? That is the mentality. Defund the police. Greatest concept ever. And then we watched crime spike just to the moon, right? Make that make sense. Oh, maybe that didn't work out. Gee, you think? Just a bunch of morons. I mean, people that are mentally challenged. And that's why Seattle, along with, a Portland, a San Fran, LA, got a lot of mentally challenged people running their cities, along with mentally challenged people on drugs, running the streets. So, is it going to get better? No, it's going to get worse till people really realize, hey, what's going on and how they can make things better. But they don't want to make things better. That is the bottom line. And that's why Seattle will stay Seattle. That's why Portland will stay Portland. And that's why San Fran will stay San Fran, because they don't really want to change at the end of the day. They're okay with human excrement, human urine, needles, you name it, they're okay with that at the end of the day. That's their level of comfort. Oh yeah, it's okay. I mean, for everybody to be able to do their own thing, I got to step in human, doo-doo every now and then. It's all good. It's all good. Seattle. So great. Yeah. All right. That's how it is. That's the way I see it. Thanks for being here. Catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.